When I collapsed at the community center, the doctors called my daughter. She never came. Instead, my son-in-law posted a family photo on social media with a caption that cut deeper than any chest pain. Finally, some peace without the needy queen. So, I made one call from that hospital bed, and put up for sale the house they thought was theirs. Who's needy now? If you're listening to this, please subscribe, and let me know where you're tuning in from. The fluorescent lights in the hospital room flickered like they were mocking me. I was 67, lying on a gurney, heart pounding from what the doctor called stress-induced palpitations. My phone buzzed in my hand, and I opened it, expecting maybe a worried text from my daughter, Laura. Instead, there was a notification. My son-in-law, Nathan, had posted a photo and tagged me. Thoughtful, right? I tapped the screen, my hands trembling from the IV needle taped to my arm. The photo loaded, a perfect family scene. Laura, smiling softly at the head of my old oak dining table. Nathan, grinning like he owned the place. My 10-year-old grandson, Owen, laughing at something just out of frame. They were in my house. Well, technically their house now, since I'd let them move in years ago. A cozy Sunday dinner, with candles and a roast that looked like it took hours to prepare. Then I saw the caption. Finally, some peace without the needy queen. Family time is so much better now. #blessed #family vibes. 52 likes already. My cousin Janet had even dropped a laughing emoji in the comments. I stared at that screen, the words blurring as my chest tightened again. While I was hooked up to monitors, wondering if I'd make it through the night. They were celebrating, not calling to check on me, not rushing to the hospital. Celebrating. The nurse came in with a clipboard. "Your daughter's coming to pick you up, right?" she asked kindly. I glanced at the timestamp on Nathan's post, posted 30 minutes ago. Right when the hospital would have called Laura. She knew exactly where I was. She'd chosen dinner instead. "No," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'll call a cab." As I sat in the hospital waiting area, something snapped inside me. I hadn't done this in years. Not since George passed. But I pulled up my contacts and dialed Susan Reed, my old friend and the best real estate agent in Wisconsin. "Susan, it's Helen Carter," I said when she picked up. "That house on Birch Lane you always said would sell fast? I'm ready to list it." Her voice was all business, but I could hear the surprise. "Helen, are you sure? That's a big move." I looked at my phone again, at Nathan's smug caption still glowing on the screen. "Oh, I'm sure," I said. "I'm done being the needy queen. You're probably wondering how I ended up here, staring at a hospital phone screen, ready to sell the house I'd called home for decades. It's a story that starts with love, and ends with learning what I was really worth to the people I loved most. It began 4 years ago, when my world fell apart. My husband, George, was my anchor, a quiet man, a brilliant accountant. He could make numbers sing and still come home to make me laugh over dinner. When he passed away from a sudden heart attack at 62, the silence in our 4-bedroom house on Birch Lane was deafening. I was 63 then, a retired bank teller with a pension and George's life insurance, enough to live comfortably, but not enough to fill the emptiness. Laura, my only daughter, was a godsend those first weeks. She'd stop by almost daily, sometimes with Nathan and their son, Owen. They'd bring casseroles, check the furnace, mow the lawn. "Mom, you shouldn't be alone in this big house," Laura said one evening, sitting on the porch swing George and I used to share. "It's too much for you." Nathan nodded, his face all concern. All these memories, it must be so hard. I believed them. The house did feel overwhelming, every corner held a piece of George. So when Nathan suggested they move in temporarily, just until I figured out what I wanted long-term, it felt like a lifeline. Owen could stay in his school district, Laura added, and you'd have us close by. We'd take care of everything. It sounded perfect. I'd downsize to a small apartment nearby, let them handle the house, and still have my family near. Just for a year or so, Nathan promised, until we save up for our own place. I should have seen the red flags. Within weeks, Nathan started talking about property taxes, maintenance costs, how the house was a financial burden on my fixed income. Never mind that George's insurance and our savings meant I was far from struggling. But I trusted them. They were family. 6 months later, they'd fully moved in. I'd rented a one-bedroom apartment across town, paying rent while they lived mortgage-free in the home George and I had paid off over 30 years. My visits to Birch Lane started feeling strange. My favorite armchair was pushed to the garage. The kitchen walls, once a soft yellow George loved, were painted a stark white. "It's more modern," Laura said when I asked. I didn't know it then. But they'd been planning this from the start. While I was grieving, they'd quietly redirected my mail to their address, supposedly to help manage my affairs. Bank statements, utility bills, even investment notices started going to Birch Lane. If I asked about something, Nathan would say, "Don't worry, Mom, we've got it handled." Just temporary, stretched into 2 years. Then 3, then 4. Every time I mentioned them finding their own place, there was a new excuse. Laura's job was unstable. Nathan's car needed repairs. Owen was struggling with school transitions. I started feeling like a guest in my own home. My photo albums disappeared into the attic. My mother's china was donated by mistake. The worst part wasn't losing the house, though. It was becoming invisible. Family dinners I wasn't invited to. Owen's school events where I'd show up, only to find Laura forgot to tell me the time changed. I'd call, and Nathan would say they were busy. I told myself they were just settling in, that I was being too sensitive. But that hospital room, that cruel caption on Nathan's post, it ripped the blinders off. As I sat there, waiting for my cab, I realized I hadn't been a mother helping her family. I'd been a fool, letting them rewrite my place in their lives. I scrolled through my phone, looking at Laura's last text from a month ago. "Mom, we're swamped. Let's catch up soon." Catch up, like I was an old acquaintance, not the woman who raised her. I set the phone down and made a promise to myself. No more excuses, no more pretending everything was fine. Susan's voice came back on the line. "Helen, I'll need a day to get the paperwork ready. That house will sell fast." "But are you sure?" I thought of Nathan's smug words, needy queen, and the family dinner they enjoyed without me. "I've never been more sure," I said, as I sat in that cab, leaving the hospital behind. Nathan's words, needy queen, burned in my mind. I wasn't just hurt, I was angry. Angry at myself for trusting so blindly. And angry at Laura and Nathan for turning my home, my life, into their playground. But anger can be a gift. It woke me up, and when I started digging, what I found was worse than I could have imagined. Susan Reed didn't waste time. She showed up at my apartment the next morning with Diane Foster, a lawyer who looked like she could stare down a courtroom and win. "Helen," Susan said, setting a thick folder on my kitchen table. "This house is a gem. But we need to talk legalities first." Diane spread out documents, her eyes sharp. "Tell me about the arrangement with Laura and Nathan. Any lease? Any rent payments?" I shook my head. "No, it was just family helping family. I thought they were doing me a favor." Diane's lips pressed into a thin line. "That's good and bad. Good because you still own the house outright. Bad because they might claim tenant rights after 4 years. My stomach twisted. Tenant rights? They're my family. Family can be the worst offenders. Diane said gently, "Let's pull your credit report first. If they've been intercepting your mail, we need to know what else they've touched." I hadn't checked my credit in years. As a retired bank teller, I should have known better. But grief has a way of clouding your judgment. While Diane made calls, I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. That's when I saw it, a $80 second mortgage on the house. Taken out 18 months ago. In my name. I hadn't signed a thing. "Susan," I whispered, my voice shaking, "I didn't authorize this." She leaned over, her face grim. "Helen, we need to dig deeper. Now." By noon, Diane had my credit report. It was like reading a stranger's life. 3 credit cards I'd never opened, each with $15 limits. A personal loan for $25. A store card for a furniture store in Milwaukee. All linked to my name. All with payments coming from an account at Birch Lane, my house. The phone number on every account? Nathan's cell. I scrolled through the statements Diane pulled up. The charges told a story of a life I wasn't living. $250 a month for Laura's boutique fitness classes. $400 for Nathan's golf club membership. $300 for Owen's private art lessons, lessons he'd never mentioned. Restaurants I'd never heard of. Thousands spent on designer clothes. Weekend trips to Chicago. And then, the one that made my hands shake, $7,500 for a Florida beach resort last Christmas. When they'd told me they were keeping things low-key because of Owen's school stress. I'd spent the day alone, eating a microwave dinner, while they were sipping cocktails on a beach. Helen, Diane said, her voice steady but urgent. This is identity theft, fraud, forgery, and it's systematic. I could barely speak. How did I not see this? You trusted them, Susan said. That's not your fault. But there was more. Diane pointed to a section of the report labeled Inquiries. Multiple hits from elder law attorneys and something called Senior Care Planning Services. They've been consulting about guardianship, Diane said, building a case to declare you incompetent. My heart stopped. Incompetent? Me? They've been recording your calls, Diane explained. Times when you sounded confused or upset. They've got neighbors saying you've been erratic. It's a pattern. Isolate you, control your finances, then swoop in as the concerned family. I thought back to the awkward silences at family dinners. The times Laura would say, "Mom, you seem stressed. Maybe you should rest." I'd thought she was worried. She was setting me up. That evening, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from Laura. "Mom, some real estate lady called about the house. What's going on? Call me back." I didn't. Instead, I started a list. Every ignored call, every cancelled plan, every time I'd felt like a burden. March last year, I asked Nathan to help fix a leak in my apartment. He said he was swamped, but posted photos from a brewery tour that weekend. Owen's school play in November, Laura forgot to save me a seat. I stood in the back, watching strangers take empty chairs. Christmas, 2 years ago, I brought gifts for everyone. They gave me a half-used gift card to a coffee shop. But the real gut punch came when I scrolled through Laura's social media, something I'd rarely done. Her Instagram was a curated dream. Photos of her, Nathan, and Owen at amusement parks I didn't know about. Dinners I wasn't invited to. Owen's 10th birthday party, a huge event with a bounce house and catering. I hadn't even been told it was happening. Under one photo, a friend asked, "Where's your mom?" Laura's reply, "Oh, she's been keeping to herself lately. Needs her space." Needs my space? I'd been begging to be included. Another post. From a family barbecue, just the 3 of us. Keeping it simple. Nathan's comment, "Helen's been a bit needy lately. Better to keep things stress-free for Owen." Needy. There it was again. The word they'd weaponized to push me out. Then, late that night, an email arrived from Tom Harris, an old colleague of George's from his accounting days. I almost deleted it, thinking it was spam, but the subject line caught my eye, about Nathan. Helen, it read, "I heard about your health scare. I don't want to overstep, but you need to know something. Nathan's parents lost everything a few years ago, house, savings, everything. There were rumors Nathan had something to do with it, but nothing was proven. I don't know if Laura knows. Be careful." I read it again, my hands cold. Nathan had done this before. And my daughter, my Laura, might not even know the man she'd married. I called Diane immediately. "We need to look into Nathan's past." I said, "This isn't just about me." "Already on it," she said, "but Helen, brace yourself. If this is a pattern, it's bigger than we thought." The email from Tom Harris was like a match struck in the dark. Nathan had done this before, stripped his own parents bare, and now he was doing it to me. Maybe Laura didn't know. Maybe she did. Either way, I wasn't going to let them erase me from my own life. I looked at Susan and Diane, their faces set with determination, and said, "I want that house listed. And I want criminal charges filed. How fast can we move?" Diane's eyes gleamed. "Charges by tomorrow morning. Listing by the end of the week. If we're discreet." Discreet, I repeated. Good. They don't get to control this story anymore. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Nathan's name flashed first, then Laura's. Voicemails piled up. "Mom, some real estate agent called about the house. What's going on?" Laura's voice was panicked. Nathan's was sharper. "Helen, this is crazy. You can't sell our home. Call me back now." Our home. The words hit like a slap. I ignored them and met with Diane to sign the paperwork for the charges, identity theft, fraud, Forgery. My hands shook as I wrote my name. But not from fear. For the first time in years, I felt in control. That afternoon, there was a knock at my apartment door. I opened it to find Owen, my 10-year-old grandson, standing there with a small backpack, his eyes red from crying. My heart broke. Laura and Nathan weren't in sight. But I saw their car parked across the street. Engine running. They'd sent him to do their dirty work. Grandma Helen, Owen said, his voice trembling. Mom says we'll have to live in a motel if you sell the house. Please don't do this. I knelt down, pulling him inside. Sweetheart, come sit with me. I glanced out at the car, Nathan's silhouette in the driver's seat. Laura's in the passenger's, close enough to watch, far enough to pretend they weren't orchestrating this. Did they send you here alone? He nodded, wiping his nose. Mom packed my bag and said I should stay with you. She said maybe you'd change your mind if I asked you to keep the house, because family takes care of each other. The manipulation was so blatant it made my skin crawl. Using my grandson as a pawn? That was a new low. Even for them. I sat him on my couch, handing him a glass of water. Owen, honey, do you know why I'm selling the house? He shook his head. Mom said you just changed your mind. That you don't want us to be happy anymore. I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. 4 years ago, after Grandpa George died, your parents moved into my house to help me out. It was supposed to be temporary. But they never looked for their own place. Instead, they've been using my name to borrow money, lots of money, for things like fancy trips and cars. Things you didn't even get to enjoy. Owen's eyes widened. Like the Florida trip last Christmas? My blood ran cold. What do you know about Florida? They said they had to visit a sick friend. But I stayed with my friend Jake's family for a week. I heard Mom tell someone on the phone it was a beach vacation. They'd left their 10-year-old son behind to live it up on a beach with my money. I forced myself to stay calm for Owen's sake. Sweetheart, you're not going to be homeless. I promise. But I can't let your parents keep hurting me, or you, with their choices. A car horn blared outside. Nathan, impatient. I took Owen's hand and walked him downstairs. Nathan rolled down the window as we approached. Well, Owen, did you talk some sense into her? I leaned down, meeting his eyes. Nathan, if you ever use my grandson to manipulate me again, I'll add child endangerment to the charges I filed this morning. His face went pale. What charges? Identity theft, fraud, forgery, the $80 second mortgage you took out in my name, the credit cards, the Florida trip you took while Owen stayed with friends. Laura leaned across from the passenger seat, her voice shrill. Mom, that's ridiculous. That money was for the house. For family expenses. Family expenses? I laughed. But it was bitter. Like your fitness classes? Nathan's golf membership? The vacation Owen wasn't invited to? We've been maintaining the house. Nathan snapped. We painted the whole downstairs. Fixed the roof. With my money. I cut in. Every utility bill. Every repair. Paid from accounts you opened in my name. And that post. Nathan? Finally. Some peace without the needy queen. Posted while I was in the hospital. Fighting to breathe? Laura's face crumpled, but Nathan's eyes narrowed. You're blowing this out of proportion. That post wasn't about you. Oh, please, I said, just like ignoring my calls wasn't about me. Just like forgetting my birthday last year wasn't about me. You wished me happy birthday on Facebook 3 days late. Laura, that's the effort I've come to expect. Owen tugged at my hand. His voice small. Are they in trouble, Grandma? I looked down at him. My heart aching. They've made some bad choices. Sweetheart, but you're not in trouble. You're safe with me. I opened the car's back door. Owen, you're staying with me tonight. Your parents need to figure out how to be honest before they're fit to take care of anyone. Nathan started to protest, but Laura put a hand on his arm, her eyes wide with something that looked like fear or guilt. They drove off, leaving Owen with me. As I walked him back upstairs, I realized something. This wasn't just about money or a house. It was about protecting the one person who still saw me as family. Taking Owen upstairs that night, his small hand in mine, I felt a clarity I hadn't known in years. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting a 10-year-old boy who deserved better than parents who'd use him as a bargaining chip. But the truth I uncovered next made everything so much darker. Diane Foster's office became my second home over the next few weeks. Papers covered every surface: bank statements, credit reports, legal filings. Helen, Diane said, adjusting her glasses. The good news is their paper trail is a prosecutor's dream. Every fraudulent account, every forged signature, it's all documented. I nodded, holding Owen's hand as he colored quietly in the corner. He'd insisted on coming, wanting to understand what his parents had done. At 10, he was handling it better than I was at 67. What's the bad news? I asked. Diane sighed. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment scam. They've been planning it since George died. The mail redirection started within weeks of his funeral, under the guise of helping you grieve. The fraudulent accounts? Those began 18 months ago. But the groundwork was laid long before. My stomach churned. They'd used my grief as a weapon. But then came the twist that broke me. Diane slid a document across the desk. My investigator dug into Nathan's history. This isn't his first time. I stared at her. What do you mean? Before moving in with you, Nathan and Laura lived with his parents in Illinois for 2 years. His parents, healthy, independent retirees, lost their home and savings. They're in a nursing home now, barely scraping by. There were suspicions Nathan drained their accounts, but no one pursued charges. The family didn't want the drama. Owen looked up from his coloring book. Dad did this to Grandpa and Grandma too? Diane nodded gently. It looks that way, sweetheart. I felt sick. Nathan wasn't just a thief. He was a predator. And Laura? My Laura? Did she know? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Diane hesitated. That's the complicated part. Based on the records, Nathan set up most of the accounts. But Laura's signatures are on some of the later documents. She might not have known at first, but she didn't stop it either. She benefited. Helen, the trips, the car, the lifestyle, she was part of it. I looked at Owen, his small face crumpled with confusion. My daughter, the girl I'd raised to be kind, had let herself be pulled into this. I wanted to believe she'd been manipulated. But the truth was harder. She'd chosen this life over me, over her son. The house sale moved faster than I expected. Susan found cash buyers, a young family with 2 kids, who fell in love with the Birch Lane house. They paid $380, enough to clear the fraudulent mortgage and give me a fresh start. Standing in the empty living room one last time, I traced my fingers along the walls where George and I had marked Owen's height over the years. It hurt, but it also felt like freedom. The legal battle was messier. The district attorney took the case seriously, calling it a textbook example of elder abuse. Nathan faced charges of identity theft, fraud, and forgery. Laura was charged as an accessory, but her lawyer argued she'd been coerced by Nathan. I wasn't so sure. At the custody hearing for Owen, the judge didn't hold back. Evidence showed Nathan and Laura had left Owen with friends or neighbors at least 7 times in the past 2 years, including that Florida trip. Parents who prioritize luxury vacations over their child's well-being, the judge said, have no business retaining custody. I was granted temporary guardianship of Owen. Nathan was sentenced to 3 years in prison, with restitution of $95, the total they'd stolen from me. Laura got 2 years of probation, her lawyer leaning hard on the coerced wife defense. But Diane's investigator found emails between Laura and Nathan, planning how to manage Mom's assets as early as 6 months after George's death. She wasn't innocent. She'd chosen to look the other way. I wanted to hate her, but she was still my daughter. I held onto a sliver of hope that she'd find her way back. For Owen's sake, the day the verdict came down, Owen and I were packing up my apartment. He looked at me, his eyes serious. Grandma Helen, are Mom and Dad going to jail forever? I sat beside him, choosing my words carefully. Your dad will be away for a while. Your mom has to do some community service. They're facing consequences for what they did. But it's not your fault. Sweetheart, none of this is. He nodded, but his voice was small. I don't want to live with them if they keep lying. I pulled him close. You don't have to. You're with me now, and I'm not going anywhere. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from Laura. Mom, we need to talk. You don't understand everything. Please. I showed it to Owen. He read it, then looked up at me. She always says that when she wants something. 10 years old, and he already saw through her. What do you think I should do? I asked. He thought for a moment. Don't call her back. People who hurt you don't get to decide when you talk. I smiled, despite the ache in my chest. My grandson was wiser than his parents would ever be. 18 months later, I'm sitting on the porch of my new home in the suburbs of Wisconsin, watching Owen chase fireflies with a neighbor's kid. The air smells like fresh cut grass. And for the first time in years, I feel free. Not just free from debt or a house full of memories, but free from the weight of being someone else's burden. The criminal case wrapped up last month. Nathan's serving 3 years, with restitution payments trickling in, about 60% of the $95 he and Laura stole. Which Diane says is better than most cases like mine. Laura's on probation, working a retail job to meet her community service hours. She calls sometimes, leaving voicemails about fixing things. I listen, but I don't always call back. Some bridges take time to rebuild, if they can be rebuilt at all. Owen lives with me now, permanently. The custody hearing laid bare how Laura and Nathan left him with friends for weeks at a time, chasing a lifestyle they couldn't afford without my money. He's 11 now, thriving in a new school, making friends who invite me to their barbecues. That's a change, being wanted, not tolerated. Our new house, bought with the sale of Birch Lane, is smaller but just right. 3 bedrooms, a big backyard, and a corner where Owen's built a fort with his own hands. He nailed a sign to it last week, Helen and Owen's Sanctuary, no manipulators allowed. I laughed when I saw it, but it felt like a promise we'd made to each other. I volunteer now at a local elder abuse prevention center, sharing my story to help others spot the signs I missed. It's heartbreaking how common this is, family members exploiting trust for profit. But it's also healing, knowing I'm helping someone else avoid my mistakes. Sometimes people ask if I regret how things turned out. I regret not setting boundaries sooner, not questioning Laura's excuses or Nathan's charm. I regret thinking love meant saying yes to everything. But I don't regret fighting back. I don't regret protecting Owen or refusing to be the needy queen they tried to make me. Here's what I've learned: peace isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about standing up for yourself, even when it hurts, even when it's family. Trust is precious, but it's not a blank check. And love, real love, doesn't demand you shrink yourself to fit someone else's story. Owen calls me over to see his latest Ford upgrade, a rope ladder he's proud of. Grandma Helen, you're not a queen, he says, grinning. You're a superhero. I smile, my heart full. Maybe he's right. Maybe surviving betrayal and building a new life makes you a little bit super. Thanks for listening to my story. If it resonates, share yours in the comments. Your voice matters.